Hello friends, welcome to day one of the 2020 20 Wine Days of February. Say that 3 times fast, I'll get it by the end of the month. I'm so excited for day one today because we're talking about a very exciting topic to me, Missouri wine. Missouri wine? Yes, Missouri wine. Wine is made in Missouri. Wine is actually made in all 50 states, but today we're focusing on the great state of Missouri, who has a long and storied history of winemaking. Actually started as a wine region around Hermann, Missouri in the 1830s as it was being settled by German immigrants. Today there's over 130 wineries and 11 wine trails in the state of Missouri, which houses 5 AVAs or American viticultural areas. There's Hermann that I just mentioned, there's Ozark Mountain, there's Ozark Highlands, there's the Loess Hills, which is also bumps up a little bit into Iowa. And then of course there is Augusta, which was the first AVA in America. Yes, you heard that. The first AVA in America, June 20th, 1980. The second AVA wouldn't be approved until 1981, and that was Sonoma Valley. All right, so I have a lot of wines here today. We've got 5 Missouri wines. I'm gonna go through them quickly, give you some notes about the winery or about the grapes, whatever. Let's jump right into it. All right, we're starting off today with the 2015 Stonehill Chardonnay. Now, Chardonnay is actually a hybrid grape of Ice Blanc and, hey, you guessed it, Chardonnay. So, Stonehill Winery. At the turn of the 20th century, Stonehill was the 3rd largest winery in the world. Yes, I said in the world. Not in the state of Missouri, not in the United States, not in the Midwest, in the world. And they were also the first winery to resume winery operations after Prohibition. Now, this Chardonnay, it's going to be described as foxy sometimes, which the best way to describe that if you've never experienced it is a little bit oily, a little bit just slightly gamey. And it's not overpowering in most wines, but that's that. I get maybe a hint of that on this wine, but let's give this a taste here. All right, so for me, I'm getting some citrus or some tropical fruit notes. I'm getting a lot of pineapple on this though. Carried by some nice acid, touch of creaminess in there. I'm sure this wine was aged in oak. Don't quote me on that. Probably should have checked that before we started, but love that wine. Chardonnay, one of the many hybrid grapes used in Missouri winemaking as well as through the Midwest in some areas that we think of non-traditional grapes growing. Now, the next wine we're moving on to here is the Noble Ice Vidal Blanc Reserve. Now, this was a kind of a pet project for the winemaker. In 2016, the Vidal Blanc harvest was what would be called nearly perfect. The fruit got into the winery and it just looked amazing. So he decided to make this this reserve Vidal Blanc. I'm glad he did. I've gone through most of the case of this I brought back. So Vidal Blanc can be made in different styles. It can be made in a dry style, which this one here is, or it can be made in sweeter styles, even into like ice wines. Now on the nose on this, I'm getting some citrus notes. Let's give this a taste here. Getting a nice, I don't want to say buttery because it doesn't taste super buttery, but you get that slight creaminess that you get from oak aging, but you get a nice mouthfeel on it, and then some great citrus notes. I'm getting like citrus peel on this one a lot, personally. A little bit of lime, a little bit of lemon, maybe a touch of grapefruit, but not so much on that. I love this wine. This wine, to me, would stand up to a well-made Chardonnay, to be honest with you, which I think was the point the winemakers wanted when they made this wine. Now let's pull out our next wine here. This is the Hermanhof Chambourcin Vin Gris. And yes, it's pink. You can see that it's pink, but it's called Vin Gris, which would be white wine. Why is it called that? Well, Chambourcin is one of the only grapes in the world whose juice is actually colored juice. Having worked with Chambourcin myself during a harvest internship here on the East Coast, I got to experience firsthand when you press Chambourcin to try to make a rosé wine out of it, what you end up getting is this very deep, dark purpley blue juice. So this is technically made in that style, in a white wine style, but you're still gonna get the color from it from Chambourcin. Now, I am the first to admit, and I was the first to admit, before Missouri Wine hosted me, almost 3 years ago now, on a press trip, that Chambourcin was not my favorite. I even got teased a little bit about it by the marketing team that I was gonna have my mind changed on Chambourcin. I absolutely did. And I did it at Hermanhof as I was walking through the cellars tasting this wine, because they have 10 stone cellars on the property there underground that are actually listed in the National Register of Historic Places. And this is a great wine to sip on while we were walking through those. It's really cool. If you ever get there to Hermann, go visit Hermanhof and see these things. They're so cool. Now, on the nose, I'm getting a slight melon on this wine. Yep, definitely on the palate. Getting some cantaloupe, honeydew on that. It's not overly sweet. A lot of people think all peak wines are sweet. It's not a sweet wine. There's a touch of residual sugar in there, so you get that, but it's got a nice acid backbone as well. Now, speaking of Chambersons, which I thought I didn't like, we're moving on to the Adam Pukta Situation Red. Now, this is a Chamberson-based wine. Cool thing about Adam Pukta, it is the oldest continually run family-owned winery in the country. Yeah, isn't that cool? Yeah, so on this I'm getting a little hint of baking spice on it. Let's give it a taste. Yeah, some nice fruit on that. I'm getting a lot of raspberry on this one personally. Raspberry, maybe a touch of blueberry. Not uncommon for a Chamberson. Chamberson there in Missouri is well made. The winemakers they've been working with it for years, so they know how to treat it, not overcrop it, as happens a lot of times on the East Coast. At least in my experience, I don't want East Coast wineries calling me out saying, we make great Chamberson. That's great. You make great Chamberson, you want me to taste it, you send it to me, I'll talk about it, I promise. But I love the Chamberson out of Missouri. Now finally, we're gonna end, folks, with the state wine grape of Missouri, and that is the Norton. You can see I had a little taste of this before we started. Now, Norton was actually discovered by Dr. Daniel Norton in Richmond, Virginia in 1830, but he approved it for commercial use and sent it off to Missouri, where it has grown well and has been named the state grape. So you see the dark color we get on that wine right there. And this one here is from Montel. This is their 2015 Montel Norton Reserve. The owner winemaker, there's a retired airline pilot, and he's also been named the one of the most influential winemakers in the U.S., top 100, at least one time I know. So this is, all right, so I'm getting a lot of spice on this now. I'm taking this more as wood spice on this one here. Taste it. Oh, wow, that fruit. Okay, I'm getting a lot of dark cherry notes on that, a lot of big, big, like Bing cherry. Little sour notes on there, good acid backbone, tannins are nice and smooth. I would absolutely pour this wine with a big hunk of grilled steak. I think probably a fattier steak would be a little better with it, but any cut you want I think would be amazing. All right, friends, I think this first video is gonna be a little long because we had so many wines to get to. I wanted to drop some great knowledge on you. Use that at your next party or wine tasting. Just the simple fact that Augusta was the first AVA in the country. People won't believe you. They'll look it up. They'll come back to you and tell you you were right and think you were really super smart. And then you can thank me, as I think Missouri Wine, who hosted me a couple years ago. Great trip. Can't wait to get back there, actually. If you want more information on Missouri wines, go to MissouriWine.org. That's Missouri spelled out, wine.org. A lot of great information on there. Follow them on the social medias. They do a lot of cool stuff. Informing you or teaching you about Missouri wines and wine in general, food pairings, regions, different varieties, especially wine varieties that you may or may not know if you're not used to drinking or experience some of these hybrid varieties. All right, friends, thanks for joining. If if you're a team of a fan of the home state team competing in tomorrow's big game, let me say go Chiefs to you. Thanks for joining. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. And until then, be nice, be safe, and be happy. Cheers.